pandemic has been rough on many relationships and has led to a big increase in divorces. But what do you do if you want to separate but can't afford a lawyer? Family lawyer Stuart Zukerman joins us this morning with some advice. Good morning, Stuart. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I think that is a barrier for a lot of people who are considering divorce. What do you do if you can't afford a lawyer?
Well, there are several ways to approach that issue. One is that, if you and or your spouse have equity in your home or money in RRSPs, savings, investments, or in a successful business, but you don't have the cash flow to pay legal fees to deal with litigation involving separation, you can have your lawyer bring an application under the Family Law Act. Section 89 of that act allows the court, where appropriate, to order one spouse to take out money out of an asset or even borrow against an asset in order to provide an advance to the other spouse, as long as that advance is being used to pay legal fees or disbursements for experts. So it's to mount a challenge to the other person's position at trial. And as long as that advance won't prejudice either party. So, for example, if you have a home with, and I recently went to court on a case where the home was worth about $1.3 million. The husband was the only one on title. The wife only made about $30,000 a year. The husband made about $100,000 a year. And the wife didn't have the money to hire lawyers. But seeing the equity property, we brought an application for the husband to take out a loan on the property. It had a small $300,000 loan on it, but there was still $1 million worth of equity available. And the court ordered that the husband take out a $200,000 second mortgage or loan or line of credit and pay that entire proceed of $200,000 to the wife to enable her to pay legal fees, as well as ordering him to pay her spousal support of about $1,300 a month, and for him to be responsible for the payments on the new mortgage until the trial could be determined. So in that way, the wife was able to get enough legal fees to cover her hiring any experts for valuations, paying legal fees for a trial, etc.
You talked about equity in a house. Is that the same thing then if there's an RRSP that's only in the name of one spouse?
If it's an RRSP that was earned entirely during the relationship, because under the Act, the part that's earned by one spouse before they began cohabiting is excluded, but the growth in the RRSP and any new contributions from the date of cohabitation forward is presumptively subject to a 50-50 split. So it can be ordered that a person draw money out of their RRSPs and that out of the proceeds, the monies be advanced to the other spouse to assist in the litigation.
Stuart, you mentioned several methods of finance litigation. Can you expand on that?
So there's a couple of things. If you're joint tenants, that first description that I gave would work whether you're on title or not. But if you are on title and both spouses are joint tenants, you are able, without your spouse's knowledge or consent, you are able to do something called severing the joint tenancy. You can go to the land title office and transfer your 50% interest to yourself as a tenant in common rather than a joint tenant, and then you can take a mortgage or a loan against your 50% of title to the property. So there's lots of banks and finance companies that will grant a mortgage to one spouse registered against their 50% ownership in title to the homes. So that's one thing you can do. There's also several litigation financing companies who will, for slightly higher interest rates, grant advances, basically like a line of credit for litigation, which is secured through the lawyer that you're dealing with against the settlement that you eventually get. So you don't pay it up front. You may even not have minimum monthly payments to make, but you will have a payment including interest that will come out of your share of the home when the litigation is over. And typically, if you don't qualify for either of those kinds of things, then the other possibility, we tell people to go to family, friends, and or your existing bank to see if you can qualify for a line of credit or a loan, and you can secure them on title against your eventual interest in the property and get paid out that way.
A lot of information to digest there. Stuart Zukerman, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
My pleasure.